Hello, this is Yenna.
And this is Jesse.
We are super excited to be back with another Exodus, Lord, episode. We wrestled through many different questions, but we wanted to invite you and discuss this ruminating voice saying, I will always be misunderstood. So, welcome and join us at the
At the
table.
table. Here we go. Oh, this is such a loaded statement. And honestly, we could go on and on and on. This is so multifaceted, and we are just going to share what we just brainstormed off the top of our heads. But whew, this is a pretty bold statement, not gonna lie. So
But
let's
actually,
get let's
sorry,
just
before we start, can I actually give a little
yes.
credit to where we're starting these like
Oh yes.
things? I almost forgot, but these are going to be based off of this book called Unstacking Your Grief Tower by Lauren Wells, and she is this the founder of this organization called TCK Trainings. Anyway, not to go too much into it, but these are going to be inspired by this one of the chapters from there, and it's really common thoughts of TCKs. So this will be a kind of tiny pop-up series here and there when we want to be a little spicy with our podcast. So I mean, look at us, we're talking about being misunderstood. How can it get any spicier than that? Anyway, take it away, Jesse. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, we gotta give credit where credit's due. So definitely appreciate this. We immediately latched onto this quote because we're like, yeah, that's triggering. Let's talk more about it. So basically, being misunderstood is a huge thing for TCKMKs because obviously we have we're multicultural. So we have we're integrating different parts of each culture, two or three cultures, into who we are, and we're
So
allowing that to
true.
shape us. And so there is no way that we aren't going to be misunderstood. I mean, because maybe we look one way, but we have a different culture internally,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, we only grew up in one culture that is not of our own. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
Yes.
just even
So,
hard to articulate right now as we're trying to share
yeah,
this.
the thing that we want to unpack about me being misunderstood is how do we react to being misunderstood? How have we been reacting to how we've been feeling misunderstood? And how is that shaping us now? And that's different for each of us, right? Because
True.
our context is different. But an overarching theme is that, yeah, a lot of TCKs feel misunderstood. And so, and again, okay, I do want to say, even if you're not TCK or MK, if your parents are immigrants, I'm sure you can relate to this too,
Yeah.
because you're trying to fit into a culture that your parents are not from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure that creates a lot of
Tension.
identity tension. Yeah.
They call that the cross-cultural experience. And honestly, within America, that's just what America kind of should have represented. Anyway, but it's just so multifaceted, especially now that the internet and airplanes and all these transportations are blending our cultures together. It creates so much complexity, and it's so complex and so detailed that it's so hard to address. But we will do our best to express what we have experienced ourselves and noticed within ourselves and maybe the people around us.
So then, Yana, when you are misunderstood, how do you react to that?
I don't know, I'm blanking because there's a million things I want to say probably. But obviously for me, I do the smile and nod, boys, smile and wave. I think I numb it out because I'm just so, first of all, so used to it. And then the other part is, why do I even try if they're not going to be here long enough to try to understand me? And why would I even let myself get to a place where I could possibly be hurt? So my coping mechanism was to numb it out and do my best to forget it and to essentially shut down, even though I might physically not look like that and expressionally look like I'm engaging, but heart wise, I've disengaged fully
Right.
because I know what I am capable of when I am fully triggered. And so to avoid creating some sort of drama and some sort of extreme, I lean into the other extreme of completely shutting out. So that has definitely been
Mm.
something that was hard to undo, and still I'm not undone altogether, obviously, but I at
Yeah.
least am noticing it.
And with numbing, it that looks like not communicating, right, for
Mm.
you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No communication. It's not even like, oh no, I just don't say any, don't share part. It's just like none. You will never know. You will never know how much you hurt me or how much you've angered me.
You will not know the effects
Yeah. Yeah.
because I will not show it, right?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whether it's because I told myself, Yana, stop being dramatic, or
Ooh.
it's the other way around. It's like, wow, I could really hurt this person. I promise I'm not a sociopath.
Stabs on the side.
Mm.
Ooh, no, that's so real. For me, it's the whole I'm going to be misunderstood anyway, so I won't be myself to begin with. And so for me, it's putting on a mask. I'm just going to have this set profile of Jesse, bubbly, like loves to be friends with everybody and just smiles through life. And that's just my persona. Keep it light or whatever, right? Because that also relates to like, okay, but if I do take the time to explain, I'm worried that like I won't be understood still because of the complexity of my background or because of just all these cultures blending in for me.
Yeah.
So it's that rejection piece as well that I have this mask on. But
Oh my
what the
gosh.
problem is, are you being triggered right now?
Yeah, my heart hurts.
But being misunderstood as a TCK and that being triggering has started to just transfer over to when I'm just being misunderstood in general
Mm,
for the things that I do, which again, everybody is going to be misunderstood for their actions because they don't know your intentions or just
little
misunderstandings
things,
happen.
yeah.
But I take that so personally and I let it affect me and my identity, even though it's more than that.
Mm,
If that makes sense, like it triggers a desire for me to instead of just informing someone about my differences or like explaining myself, I react to it, which is so not necessary. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be that way. But I think because of just being so misrepresented and misunderstood, that if I take it personally, I feel like it's an attack on my identity. Yeah.
yeah.
What do you think about that?
I definitely
Make me feel
see.
less of a bad person.
No, I get that because I think for me, I was the joyful, bubbly little girl. That was just who I was. That was Yana Kim. I made people laugh. I made people feel comfortable. But as I started to build walls because of obviously the in and out of people coming in and out of my life, but also the idea of people always needing me to, I always needing to explain myself and my home and doing this and this and this to just to be known. I started building walls, and it was so much easier to be cold and essentially the bad guy and the bad person and the one who's just like in that stage and like pubescent is like, oh my gosh, she's just having a bad puberty time. It was always like, oh, Yena's going through a hard pubescent era. But in reality, I was just an angry child. And because I had to stand up for myself, but I am only a kid and I can only do that for so long. Like an adult can barely do that. How can you have a 12-year-old constantly have to defend who they are and who their family is and what we represent and what God represents and what how am I supposed to bear the weight of the world at 12? And so at some point for me, it was just, like I said, numbing it out because I knew my anger is going to bubble over and ruin and destroy something more than it ever has to. Yes.
And that just triggered a thought of the fact that at such a young age, we had to somehow explain our identity when we don't even like that. As a child, we don't have to, we shouldn't be thinking
Yeah.
so deeply about it.
And intellectualize it as bro. We barely, literally barely know how our body functions. How are we supposed to know this big word identity? It is like,
That it just makes sense. Like at such a young age, we had to constantly be thinking about that,
mm,
looking around in our surroundings, trying to fit in, explaining ourselves. Like as a child, it just reminds me of that YouTube video where all the kids, they're like so diverse and some kids have disabilities and they just say like, "Oh, what do you have in common or what's different?" And they're like they don't see color. They don't see that someone is disabled. They just say, "Oh, you like apples and I like oranges and that's our difference." And that's as a
that's the
child, like
level. Yeah.
that's the level. Yet we had to think so further than that
Mm.
so early on. No wonder why we're getting so triggered and we were trained to have to do that.
Not to get ahead of myself, but this book literally talks about how, or not this book, another TCK book talks about how we develop so differently because of we grow up so fast, and therefore when we get to an adult age we crash and suddenly become child because what is happening. And in the same way we need to intellectualize things at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, when in reality all I wanted to care about is that does that kid like me, or do I look good in this clothes, or is my bangs covering my half my face. These are shallow things we should have been stressed about rather than will I be able to represent Christ well. I mean, like, yes, that's important, but do you know what I mean? It shouldn't have been on. I don't know. I am conflicted as I speak right now.
Man, I was not expecting to open the floodgates, but I'm literally tearing up right now because I'm mourning over my childhood
That
of
is
what it
why
should have been.
unstacking your
It
grief
says grief.
power.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that this one question can make me so triggered.
Hmm. Isn't
Man,
that
I
crazy?
saw it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, up until this point, I saw it as like a look at us, we got to grow up more and we were more
Mm,
mature and more of like a haha, look at us. But
yeah.
now, holy crap, like I should have just been a child.
Yeah. I will go on to the next point so that I'll let you sit with that.
Okay, thanks.
I think just kind of speaking on how our being a TCK and being misunderstood transferred over to our personality. And it's really why the reason why is because those are two in one thing. As much as we don't want to be boxed in, and as much as we want to belong to a community outside of being a TCK is a community, guys. We are experiencing this collectively, but we are so ashamed. We have isolated ourselves to have to work through this on our own. And we let this affect our identity because it is our identity. And it's so hard to explain it because identity is not a black and white thing. It is so complex. And therefore, when they come at us about something that we shouldn't really overreact at, we will, because it's, dude, it's like the concept of, I'm going to try to use this example again properly, but for example, like if someone were to come at me and tell me like, oh my God, kimchi smells freaking bad, it's terrible, I'm gonna immediately think, oh, I mean, you might not like raw kimchi because, yeah, that usually has a more fermented smell, but maybe you would like kimchi soup. Maybe you like kimchi fried rice. It's like, Yana Kim, you're not kimchi. Why are you so obsessed about representing this tiny food? Because I grew up eating it and I want them to see what I see. But it's why is food so important? In the same in a such a different way, when you trash talk McDonald's, an American is not going to be offended. Maybe they will. I don't know. But overall, it's not the magnitude is not there. And so what might seem shallow for us, you might be attacking us so deep in us. For example, when someone comes up to me and it's like, oh my gosh, like, how did you survive being an NK? And I know they don't mean that in an insensitive way, but essentially what I hear is, you already see my home as terrible. And so
Mm,
how am I supposed to reconcile with this? And how am I supposed to approach this with love and compassion? because you've triggered something that you don't even see. And so I think there's so much. And like in the same way, when you go up to Jesse and say, "Oh my gosh, you're so American." Whoa, I don't know how to reconcile with that. Because
Disregarding the fact that I've grown up in Japan majority of my life. But yes.
yes. Do
Oh,
you
I
know
might be whitewashed and yada yada. Yeah.
why do you think we did that? Because all we desired was to be understood and to belong. When someone tells me, Yena, you're actually assimilating so well to like America, like how did you not have culture shock? And I'm thinking, we desired it so badly, we would do our best to not make a mistake in that. I might be, it looks like I'm confident. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know those TV shows. It's like, yeah, we just didn't grow up with a TV. When in reality, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, wow, I sound stupid, you
Mm.
know? And when you're at 10, 11, 12, when you so want to know these references just so that you can have like a conversation and you can't have that, dude, it's a real thing. As a teenager, all you want to be is seen. And
And
instead
not
of,
stand out.
yeah, but anyway, again, I'm going on a tangent, so I'm going to stop it there. Of course, though, as an adult, we do need to take responsibility for our actions and our reactions. And so that is why we speak about it, because we want to also keep us accountable and not reverting back to being overly childish. But at the same time, we are doing our best to give ourselves grace because we've not given ourselves that for being childish.
Mm.
But we're gonna do our best too because we weren't given a chance to be. Except our parents, yes, they have seen every terrible side of us, so forgive us there. But
Yeah, we're not giving an excuse for reacting in a triggered way, but we're just naming where we're coming from.
mm-hmm,
And honestly, I didn't even realize it until I put it down and mapped it out right now,
mm-hmm,
just to give myself more grace. Why am I so easily triggered and I get so defensive about these things? It makes sense.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, with that being said, it's okay. Now that we've named it and now that we've laid it out on the table, like let's work through this, you know? Let's step into that next step of being okay explaining
yeah,
and knowing how to inform with love.
mm-hmm. Taking
I
a
think
step
that's
to
like our
think,
next call to
yeah,
action.
just taking a step back and breathing and saying they're not here to attack, they're here to hear you out. It might not
Yeah.
sound like it, but yeah, trying to slow down to see their intentions rather than their question as we want to interpret it. Anyway,
Yeah.
ooh, that was a loaded episode. As we said, we can always keep going. And if you guys want to talk about it, clearly we want to talk about it. Oh my gosh, I can't even think straight because my brain is going 100 miles per hour. I didn't think this was going to open the floodgates of heaven. Anyway, yeah, I think this is going to be such a good thing to think about for yourselves, where whatever background you have and whatever country you've come from, or whatever culture you have grown up with. This is the question that we try not to address because it feels so dramatic. It impacts us, and it really does affect our relationship and how we show compassion to others and yourself. How to end this? There's no pretty way to end this other than saying we are on Spotify and on YouTube, and we are on Instagram. And, stay tuned to all the updates there. And also stay tuned to these pop-up questions, because now that we know what it does to our hearts, you might not see it as often as we were planning. Thank you for listening, and until our next episode,
Bye.
bye.